You'll get a PDH hour at the end, but make sure you are muted and your camera is off for the duration. If you do have questions that pop up, go ahead and write them in the chat, and I'll kind of moderate that and make sure that we answer any questions you might have throughout this time. So without further ado, Colleen and Adam, go ahead and take it away.
All right. Good morning, everybody. A bit of background about me. I'm a technology integration specialist at St. Francis High School in Wheaton. We are a 9 through 12 school, and we're a private school, and we're also a Microsoft Showcase school. So all of our teachers and students are using Microsoft devices, Office 365. And now that we've moved to remote learning, we have a lot of teachers using Flipgrid, which is technically a Microsoft product, which a lot of people don't realize that Microsoft owns Flipgrid. Adam, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Adam Rummelhart. I do free professional development in the Chicagoland area for Microsoft. So if you need any professional development help, webinars, rolling out Teams, anything Office 365, feel free to let me know. I'll put my email and Twitter in the chat. But yeah, I'm excited for Flipgrid because I think Flipgrid is almost a better way of connecting with your students, especially on that social emotional level, because if you're doing like a Teams meeting, you bring in 30 kids, you're not necessarily going to hear all 30 kids. So I know some people are doing like every 5 minutes a new kid joins, whatever it may be. But with Flipgrid, it's almost like you're Snapchatting or Instagram storying back and forth. So I can just say, hey, what's up, Adam? And then the kid will get the message, and then they'll be able to respond or whatever it may be. So it's pretty cool.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I think the way we are going to do this is we're going to show you a bit of what it looks like first, in case you have not seen Flipgrid before. So I'll walk you through my Flipgrid. So I'm going to log into mine, show you a bit of what it looks like. And then we'll show you a bit more of the nitty-gritty of how to make it work and how to pull it in, and especially use it for building community and fostering community, not just with students, but you can use this with parents and other members of your school, any other stakeholder groups that you might have. It's a super flexible tool. So here what we have is Flipgrid sort of has their own way of organizing content. They have what they call grids. Grids are what you can think of as your classrooms. So I have lots of different grids. Sometimes I name them based on how I'm using this as a sample. I name them as the class that it is for. And sometimes if I have one common assessment that I'm using over multiple class periods, I might make a grid for a particular topic. So there's two different ways that you can think about it. I'm also going to pull up an illustration that I made for my staff when we were walking through how to use it, because we did some training on this right before we went remote. I'm going to switch what screen I'm sharing here. So with Teams, you can either share an individual window or you can share your whole screen. So I'm going to switch to sharing my whole screen so I can just flip in and out of things. So the way that you can think of how Flipgrid is organized is a pyramid structure. The top level, the largest level, is your grids, which you can think of like your class periods. Then within each grid, you have topics, and those topics can be questions or assignments, discussion points, whatever you might want to use. And then students go into each topic and they can leave their responses. They can leave student responses to those topics within the grids. The great thing that I like about Flipgrid is that it is designed to be a video discussion board. So just like if you were doing an online class, if you're doing that like for grad school, or maybe you're doing them with your students right now, if you do an online discussion board, usually you have to post once and then reply to 3 classmates or something along those lines. You can do the same sort of thing here, and students leave video responses back and forth to each other, and that's really where we start to get that sense of community building back that we're kind of missing by not having everybody in the classroom. So I can go into, I'm going to go into this one right here. So I click into one of my grids and then I see some topics within them. So these are the individual grouped videos. And then I'm going to click in to show you what it looks like from a student side. To give, somebody just joined, I want to make sure I admit them so they're not hanging out in that lobby.
I can admit them too, since you made me a
perfect.
Enter,
Awesome.
so I can manage the lobby. No worries about that.
Great, thank you. I keep hearing the pings and I don't want anybody to be hanging out in that virtual lobby. So this assignment was done around Halloween, which is why there's a lot of stickers, but students will then go in and record their responses, and then all of these little videos on top of them, layered on top, are the video responses. This can look very cluttered depending on all of the features that you could turn on and off. I left all of the fun features on. So you can keep this as fun with all the stickers and drawings and doodles, or you can kind of streamline it and limit it and keep it very basic. Both are an option as the teacher. So a student goes in and they record their response. I'm going to show you this one here. This was a project.
All right.
They had to record themselves presenting a project that they created both in class and at home. And then the students were able to then go in and after watching it, leave some video feedback about what they liked, what they thought was cool, things like that. So that's the student side. There's a ton of great ways that you can really use this. Adam, do you want to chime in on any of it?
Just that, to me, this is such a great way now that we're virtually to create discussions. And even in physical classroom, I thought that it's just such a powerful tool, you know, student voice for every student.
Mm-hmm.
I just love it. So it almost makes you upset that not more people are, you know, out here using it.
Right. It's kind of a hidden gem. It used to be sort of a fly under the radar website. Until about 2 to 3 years ago, then Microsoft bought it and opened it up so that the full account was available to everyone. And it has taken off, but it still is something where you might mention it to somebody and they'll have never heard of it before. So that's part of why I really love showing it, because even if you may have heard about it, you might have thought, oh, it's too intimidating to start a new website, to start a whole new thing for my students. That is a lot to start right now, but the nice thing about it, it is so user-friendly that it's very easy to start remotely. So something that I dropped in the chat window at the beginning, which I can do again if you are not seeing it, is I made a playlist of tutorial videos for our teachers at our school, including one that is instructions that can be sent to students or to parents on how to use it. You're welcome to use these videos to walk you through how to set up your Flipgrid, or if you are a tech coach looking to make resources for your teachers yourself, if you want to use these as an outline for how to make your own videos and how to break everything up. I try to keep most of my videos fairly short and targeted, which is why none of them are longer than, looks like this one is almost 6 minutes, and that's the one that talks about the Flipgrid camera. So that's the one with the most content. So these are, we found super useful for ourselves. So feel free to use them. Feel free to forward them to your teachers. Feel free to use them to help you make your own. Either one works. All right, so let's talk about how to set up your own Flipgrid. I opened up a brand new tab. I'm gonna walk you guys through setting up your account so you can see just how easy it is. I see Lindsay Zilli does, her son does morning meetings on Flipgrid. That is a really great way to do it. You're gonna see when we talk about the resources that they've made available to other teachers, they can go from as young as like preschool all the way up to, they've got topics that you can pull in for families, higher education, things like that. And if your students haven't, if you've made one, I see Barb commented that she made some for her students, but they haven't been using them. Maybe they just don't know how yet, or maybe they're overwhelmed, just as overwhelmed as we are our students right now. So they just might be a bit much for them, depending on what your school is doing for your remote learning. Adam, do you want to walk them through sign up, or do you want me to walk them through it?
Sorry, I was on mute. Go ahead if you
that's
can
fine.
get this
Okay.
Screen up.
Feel free to interject. I'm just
Sure.
going to keep on rolling. So it is free for educators to sign up. Students. Yeah, bud. Sorry, I have a 3-year-old who's watching Cars in the other room. He's very excited.
Who wouldn't be?
Educators need an account, but students do not need accounts. That's the nice thing about it. So for a student to access a topic, for them to put in a video response, they would use this option here. Teachers, though, to get started, click Educator Sign Up. It's free.
Yeah, I think this is the two best parts I think of it. It's that for students, it's just the flip code, right?
Yep.
And then for teachers, I guess 90% of schools are either Microsoft or Google, and it's free. So you just click the appropriate one and it automatically authenticates you. So it's both secure and easy at the same time.
Right. So you'll click whichever one you have. If I click this one, it'll pop open the Microsoft where you put in your email account, you click next, and then you put in your password. It might ask you for some permissions. Just keep hitting accept. If you don't have a school email account that you're able to use, or you don't think it's either Google or Microsoft, you should be able to create this with your personal Google account as well, I believe. So either way, you're able to get into it. So I'm going to back out to here. Because once you're all logged in, you've put in your personal information, you put in what school, I think they ask what school you teach at, what grades you teach, those sorts of things. It drops you on your grids. It might try to take you through a tutorial, which you're welcome to do. It's a really great short tutorial. But the main thing is you want to land here so you can start making some grids for yourself. Now the grids are going to be your big level categories. So it's going to be maybe your class periods. You make like a period 1, a period 2, a period 3. Maybe you make one for your whole grade level. Maybe you make one for your whole community. The nice thing about this is since it can be used in so many different ways, they've made different types of grids for you for permission. So you see this one here is a student ID grid. This one is a school email grid. This one is a public PLC grid. So when we go in to add new grid, I clicked it right there, add new grid. You'll see here that there's 3 different types that you can choose from. If your students have school email accounts, you can click this one. So if they have an account that they use through school, whether it's Microsoft or Google, it will give the students permissions based on that, so you know it's nice and secure that the kids have to log in with their school email. If you want to use a grid with the public, with parents, with people who might not have a school email account, you can do this public PLC account. That's also great if you want to use this for, you go to a conference and you're presenting and you want to show what this is like to people who might not share the same email address as you. This is a great one to use. But if neither of these would work for maybe our youngest users in like the K through 5 group where sometimes it takes you just 10 minutes in class to get everybody all logged into their computer with the right accounts and all of that. This is a great option, the student ID option. What it'll allow you to do is you upload a list of student IDs and then it creates QR codes that the kids can scan and use to drop into the right class. So these come out as PDFs, which you can email home to parents. That might be our best way of doing it right now. But you also have the ability to get it to them with Google Classroom, with Microsoft Teams, through email. There's lots of ways to do it. I'm going to stick with this public and PLCs one for now. I'm going to give it title. We'll call it sample 4/9/2020. And down here, this is another thing I love. This site was created by teachers for teachers. So you can tell that because you can literally customize everything. Everything that you think, can I change that? You most likely can. So you can change your code to whatever you want it to be as long as that's not already taken. So I'm going to change it to Kaplan sample 2020, or we could change this one actually to IDEA 2020.
I think I might have taken IDEA 20. Oh, no, it is available? Maybe you only did IDEA.
Yeah, I'll do 4/9/20.
Well, it did say it was available. Maybe they only did idea 20 when I presented on it.
I
But,
sometimes feel bad claiming one because I'm like, oh, somebody might want to use that for like a legitimate purpose as opposed to my.
No, I squatted on the idea name for the next 5 years. I have 20.
Well,
But
if yours is taken, you know why. Adam Rummelhart took it.
I think
Do
though
you have
that
a
this.
question, Lindsay?
Oh yeah, go on, Lindsay.
No, I was just saying thank you for taking all my usernames for Flipgrid if you're using idea.
Now at least we know who to blame. That's half the battle. All right, I'm gonna hit next. With these public ones, if you're using them with parents or with your stakeholders, you're gonna notice you have the ability to add a password. You may have heard things about like Zoom bombing and stuff like that recently, where now that everybody is getting online, they're posting links and things like that publicly on their school websites or wherever they might be posting them. And people are getting access to school events or school things like a Zoom meeting, like a class Zoom meeting, where they should not have access to it. So if you make a public PLC grid for your community, you may also want to put a password on it. So that way you make sure that you're keeping it secure. Because you see down here, anyone with the flip code can join and view videos on your grid, but a Microsoft or Google account is required to record. So even though this is public, we do want to keep in mind that for the most part, we're probably working with families with children who are minors. So it's a good idea to put a password on it. I'm not going to put a password on it right now because we're going to use this for simplicity. And then next, and it's all good to go. So you can, this is what you would send out to your community, to your students, to direct them to your class. You see, you can also share it to Teams, share it to Google Classroom, share on Remind, or you can copy and embed code or copy the URL. So like I said, there is every option that you could possibly want to have is there and ready for you. And then we'll go to our grid and we are ready to go. So if you want to see what this looks like from a student perspective, if you are watching, if you go to flipgrid.com and use this flip code right there where it says idea 4920, it'll drop you right in to see what it looks like. So if you want to play along at home and record something, you are welcome to. What I also like is I always used to make dummy accounts for myself that were student accounts so I could hop in and see what the students were going to see for just about every website I use with my kids. You don't need to do that with Flipgrid because you're going to see here, if you click on this link, you're going to view it as a student. So it is right there for you. And this is what it would look like. So I love this because it's so simple. When I use this in class for the first time, usually I go to this page and I tell my students, where do you think you should go? What do you think you should do to record a response? And the pulsing giant green plus sign is where you're going to go. And then it's going to take you to the Flipgrid camera where it'll ask you to log in again.
Can I interject for just a second?
Go for it, yeah.
So Lindsay had a question about when you'd use the embed code. I've never used it before. I believe you could just embed it in like a class website is what it was designed for, but I haven't know if you used it.
So depending on what type of LMS, because I guess now you can see me through this camera. This is a little bit of like camera inception happening. Depending on what type of LMS you're using, you might have a spot for an embed code. So you could go ahead and use it there. And all it's going to do is it's going to embed a little player for you with like the option to record. If you're using something like OneNote or Google Classroom or Microsoft Teams, basically any other LMS where you can just post a link for your students, that's going to be the good way to go to just copy the link. Sometimes simpler is better. But also, if you just tell them to go to flipgrid.com and then use your code, you don't even need to link anything. You can just tell them, go to Flipgrid, here is the code that you're going to need, idea 4920. And then they type it in, it's not case sensitive, so that's awesome. And then it'll drop them into that page right there where they can see the topics and see the assignments, and they can just hop right in and record. So I think it would just depend on your LMS, honestly. I'm gonna double check here. Cool, no other questions. So if you have used Flipgrid before, but have not looked at it probably within the past 2 months, I encourage you to look at all of the things you can do down here now. They've added a bunch of things here, especially in April. With the move to remote learning, they added a ton of stuff. So one thing that I'm going to show you right here is video options. There is now an option to do screen recording. So if you want your students to be doing some sort of screencasting, they can now do screencasting using the Flipgrid camera, which makes everything so much simpler for us on our end. Because teachers wanted kids to be able to screencast and show how they were doing their math homework and stuff like that. And we didn't have any other option other than trying to figure out how to download something like Screencastify or Screencast-O-Matic or a couple of the other tools that are out there. And now it's just built right into here, and Flipgrid helps manage and organize it. They can also, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I'm so excited that that came.
Yes.
Because I think, too, you know, it's great for students showing their work, but, like, I keep refraining to teachers, like, you can show a math problem in what you can record up to 5 minutes or something, right? Like you could create, 90-second, quick tip videos, which you could post off, to make a repository for your students, just ease of access on the app. And I did it last week. It was really cool because I was able to transition and showed a PowerPoint, and then I was able to flip from the PowerPoint back to showing my face. And I only had a 1 minute time frame because you're going to talk about adding an additional video clip. But I was able to do that in 1 minute, go from showing a PowerPoint presentation then to recording myself.
Yeah, it's crazy. All of the really cool things you can do with this. And it's such a simple recorder that the kids can figure this out. They don't really need instructions, honestly. If you give them 2 minutes to play around with it, they will have it all figured out. So you can add video clips depending on what you need. You can add just some audio. I'm going to go back to here though and show you all of these options down across the, got to figure out which way is which, down across the border here. There are filters. You can turn filters on and off to see what they look like. Also clear the filters, and you can turn this whole bar on or off for your students. So if you don't want your kids to have access to all of these things, you can turn this off very easily in the settings for your assignment. You can add some text onto the screen. So I'm going to add some text, and then I can drag and move it. I can make it bigger. I can make it smaller. And this is all before I've even started recording yet. I can add an emoji. So some students or some teachers might be a little bashful to show their faces. So this is a really great tool that you can use. They can drag an emoji real big to cover their face before they start talking. And so if you were worried about privacy issues, this is a really good tool you can use as part of the toolbar. You can also do this during the video. You can add these as you're going. You can turn on a paintbrush and doodle on the screen. If you have a computer with a stylus like I do, this is a game changer. This is where the screencasting I think is going to come in really useful. You can create a blackboard or a whiteboard. So you can black out your screen. You can add a whiteboard. Actually, I'm going to stick to black because I added some white text. So this is great if you want to have students walk through their math homework that they did, explain how they got the answer. You can even have them add a photo sticker. So you can upload, they call it stickers, but really we're just talking about a photo here. So let's use this one. So any screen snip that they can grab, anything off of the internet, they can grab all of these things and add them. Now this looks like a very cluttered screen because I'm showing you all of the toys at once, but these can also be pulled in one at a time. You can, tell them to only use the drawing function, whatever it might be. So before we actually go to record, the other great tool here It drives me crazy when my students are looking down at their notes. And actually clear everything here and turn this off. When they're looking down and then they're looking up and then they're looking down and then they're looking up, or they're recording a video for you, but they're looking like off to the side so you can tell that there's something that they're reading from over there. It doesn't do much to build community if you're not able to make that like virtual eye contact. So what this sticky note does is you can drag it anywhere on your screen and you can type your speaker notes. Now this sticky note is not going to show up on your video, but if I put it kind of close up to where the camera is, if I'm reading what's on that sticky note, it looks more like I'm making eye contact with the camera. It's better for students presenting. It's better for you presenting. If you're doing your own notes, you can drag it anywhere you want. You can also remind yourself of what the question is. And there's a little countdown timer up here in the corner. You can set a time limit starting as low as 15 seconds and as long as 10 minutes. So the nice thing about this is if you give an assignment where you only want to listen to them talk for about 2 minutes, you can cut them off at 2 minutes. They cannot go any longer than 2 minutes. That is a beautiful thing if you have students that will just ramble and ramble and ramble. But if you want to give them lots of license to tell you lots of things, you can bump it all the way up to 10 minutes or somewhere in between. So it's up to you as the teacher what time limit shows up in that corner. And then once we're ready to record, we hit the record button right down there. We get a nice 3, 2, 1 countdown. And we're starting to record. So up here, we've got a visual, the number countdown is happening up in that corner. Down here, we have a visual of how much time is left because you notice this is moving. I can also, as I'm talking, turn on the whiteboard. I can write. I can add an emoji, all while this is recording in real time. When I'm all done, I hit next. You can review and we're starting to record. So up here, we've got a visual and we're starting to record. So you see it. Down here, we have a visual because you notice this is, I can add an emoji. So something that I like to show here is even though before I went and it pulled up the whole emoji window with all of them, you did not see that here, just the emoji that showed up. So that's good to know. You also have the ability to edit. You can edit chunks of this. You can clip, you can trim. So if your kid or if you spend the first 5 seconds trying to figure out whether or not your camera is on, you can trim that 5 seconds out before you hit confirm. And we're starting the next. You take a selfie. And then this is where kids like to add lots of stuff like that on their emoji or on their selfie. Next. And we are done. It does ask for a display name, so if you're going to use these publicly, make sure that you set some standards for what they should put in here for the display name, because it's just pulling this automatically from my email address. I hit submit video and it is done. That's as simple as it is for your students and for you. The nice thing is that the recorder looks exactly the same for you as it does for your students. And I love that if students need help with troubleshooting, but you're not entirely sure how to do it, you can open it up. It looks exactly the same for you as it does for them. So I'm gonna pop over to the chat window real quick and see if there's anything here. You can use this to create tutorials to post elsewhere or to create videos for yourself. I'm looking at Lindsay's comment there. I can show you from here what you're then able to do, because I am flipping back into the teacher side of things. I now see the student video here. I have the ability to go in and I can download the response. You can also, I'm going to click in so you see the teacher side of And we're starting to record. You can go here to share. You can copy the link to share just this video. You can create a QR code for it because it has a whole augmented, it's AR, not VR, I believe, augmented reality QR code option that you could do that would be great for when we're back in schools. You can embed your video, put it in Teams, put it in Google Classrooms, share on Remind. You can share just this video out using this code. There's like 8 or 9 different ways where you can take that video you just made and put it out publicly for others to use. So your school community could have a board or have a topic that is, you know, private for your school community, but you can pull out a couple of videos to maybe share on your Twitter or your Instagram or wherever it might be. And then as the teacher, what you're also able to do is you can give video feedback to just the student. So maybe you record yourself giving a response back to the student, and then only the student can see that response, which is nice. Or you can choose type text and give them a typed response and email it to them. And then if you had more student responses, you could then go through and watch all the student responses here as well. So there's lots of ways to see everything sort of organized in one place. So when my teachers are trying to have my students do video responses to things, especially with remote learning, regardless of what the topic area is, I am trying to drive them to Flipgrid simply because it is going to organize them so well for you. So your download options are going to be, and we're starting to record over here on share from the teacher side, and you can pull that video off to use it in lots of different ways. All right, let me go hop over and check the questions and see what we got. I'm not sure if you can trim in the middle. I've only ever trimmed from the beginning or the end of the video. But if Adam also doesn't think you can do that, then it might not be an option. But what I would say is they have already made so many new additions to this since all of this e-learning started that I wouldn't be surprised if more updates keep getting released over the next, you know, month or so.
Yeah, I don't think you can cut and splice. You can only shorten. So either from the beginning or from the end. At least that's been my experience when playing around with it.
Yeah.
Though, I mean, I guess you could do, like, there's workarounds, I suppose, if you use, like, the video editor in Windows 10, or if you're on a Chromebook, some sort of other video editor, right, and then upload it or something. Oh, you could only cut the beginning. It's, the other thing I'll say, too, is that everything's been stressed these days. So I'm hoping it's just, you know, the website being overloaded with people, and that's what's causing the glitches.
So the last thing I want to show everybody is when you log into Flipgrid, they have what they call their disco library, which is not what you might think it would be. That's going to be where all of their shared resources are. They've got a really great tile here for learning from home, where it's going to pull a bunch of topics that teachers have added to sort of the communal library that you can use with your students, with your families, or just with your general community. So it's a lot of sort of, there's some social emotional components in here. Some of them are things like joke of the day, tongue twister challenge. Some of them are fun, and some of them are general ones that could be used with lots of different class levels in more of an academic sense. So what this disco library is going to be, is it's going to be their resources that teachers are sharing. You're going to see that there are some playlists here. They work with a lot of featured educators. So if you have a social media teacher star that you follow, so maybe like Gary Brooks or something like that, somebody who is a teacher but also sort of social media famous for being a teacher, they may have a playlist here where they've curated a bunch of lessons that they really love. You're also going to see that places like the National World War II Museum, the Met, they have their own curated lessons on here. And then there's going to be lots of things like Wonderopolis, Nearpod, some subscription sites also have content on here that you're able to use to sort of work cross-platform. So there's a ton on these featured playlists. But if you want to see maybe what's there for your preschool and kindergartners, I'm going to actually clear all of these filters. Preschool kindergartners on maybe, let's do community. It's going to pull lessons that'll work great for them. And I love using these things up across the top as filters. I usually click on used to see which is the most used lesson that's in here that fits these criteria, because that means that one's probably pretty good. We can click on it, see what the assignment is, and if we like it, we can add it to our grid, and it's going to be instantly ready for our students with very little setup time. So they've got a super extensive library here, especially in terms of beyond the classroom and community. So I'm actually going to take this off so we can see all of the ones that have been tagged for beyond the classroom or community. This one's been used 3,000 times, weekly check-ins. That might be a great one to be using right now. Some fun ones like 2 Truths and a Lie, what inspires you. There's so much going on here to help pull in and to make it so it's one less thing that you need to make yourself. You can just find something great and pull it in and adjust it for your students and your families. Adam, do you have any ones you particularly like here?
Sorry, just got kicked off for a second there.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, my internet's at home's been cutting in and out.
Awesome. That's great for working from home.
Yeah, well, it's a whole thing. Topics I like the Met, the World War II Museum. I'm a history nerd, so anything history. I was really mad because I was right about to make a joke, Colleen, about how much you love disco, so you were really disappointed that it wasn't about disco.
The first time I logged in, I was like, what is this? What is a disco library? But yeah, no, there's some really cool stuff in here, especially like I know our social studies department is the one that was sort of the most technologically phobic before we started all of this. They had the least usage of computers in their department. But there's some really great stuff in here that's so easy to pull in. And especially for high school kids, there's so much content out there for elementary and littles. A lot of times the high school kids get ignored for some of this, more warm, fuzzy, fun stuff. They think high school kids don't want fun stuff, but they do. They do really want some fun stuff. The Met ones I love because you can really, depending on what you're doing, you can scale it up or scale it down. So even if it's something here that's for elementary ages 5 through 10, depending on what the lesson is, you can probably add an additional layer to make it appropriate for older kids as well. But there's a ton here for elementary 5 through 10. So if your art teachers are trying to figure out how do we do art when we don't have our students in front of us, this looks like they've got a ton of content in here on all sorts of visual art, making mummies, dream beds, all sorts of things like that. And there's a ton in there for STEM, vocabulary, coding. I mean, you name it, there's things in here. All right, so I'm looking at these questions now. Yeah, they've beefed up a ton of these lessons. It's a really, really great library. It only copies the content. It does not copy the videos posted by other classrooms. It only pulls in the topic and all of the topic resources. So when you go in to find one of these, like this Making Mummies one, I'm going to do select a grid and then I hit add. It's going to take me so I can change some of the settings if I need to. And then it's good to go and ready for the students. You see that there's no responses. Something else that you can do is when I go into my grids, I'll go back to the sample I was making before. You have the opportunity to add a co-pilot. A co-pilot is basically a co-teacher. So if you have 2 teachers that you want to access a lesson, you would just type in their email and then invite them to it. And then a teacher can also duplicate that grid, and then it's only going to copy the topics. It's not going to copy any of the videos within it. So that's the nice thing too. It's super easy to copy things back and forth from one teacher to another, or from, you know, class 1 to class 2, whatever you might need. All right, do we have other questions? I've done a lot of talking, more than I intended to do, but I could just keep going on and on and on about this if you couldn't tell. Or Adam, do you have anything to add about what you like, what things I might have missed?
No, I mean, what I love about it is that it's simplistic to use, but also you can get into the depths of, like, you can customize like every sort of thing you want it to do. Like if you wanted the content to be moderated, you can have the content be moderated. You can do all sorts of things. But I think if you are a teacher and you are looking for ways to engage with our students, because I think now more than ever, we need to make sure we're concentrating on their social emotional needs, because, you know, maybe, you know, high schoolers have access to phones or something, but especially as you called it the littles, I liked that.
Yeah, there's the littles and the bigs.
Right, the littles, but I think this is a way that you can, you know, kind of engage with your class a lot easier. And so I know a lot of people I've seen online have used this as just like check-ins, basically. How are you doing today? Every morning they do that. And then, yeah, Lindsay's talking about the Flipgrid being very responsive too. Right, yeah, follow the @Flipgrid on Twitter. There's also, if you may have noticed on the website or on other things, there's like a bunch of former, I guess they're currently probably still MIE experts, or I guess they've now joined the team. But they're all, you know, former educators who are MIE experts who now, you know, all they do is share the love of Flipgrid. So like Jesse Boyce, Anna, I forget her last name. There's tons and tons of ones out there. So definitely look for them on social media, yeah, and look at the remote learning blog. Yeah, how did you get your high school students to buy it, Colleen?
This is the blog link that I just posted. It kind of centralized a lot of their resources, including some tips, some quick start tips, some getting started webinars. All of their things are sort of all in one spot. So this is a really good thing to also share or peruse at your own speed. Our kids were, as far as I know, they haven't been fighting it, but so the way we're doing remote learning is we have periods 1 through 4 on our A day and periods 5 through 8 on our B day. So our kids are not too overwhelmed in terms of, you know, trying to do all of their classes every day. I know some of the kids that have been doing, or some of the schools that have been doing that, are reporting there's a lot of burnout happening, not just with their teachers, but with their students and their families. So if your students are doing all of their classes every day, there may be some burnout, and just adding one more thing like this, as great as it is to build community, it might be too much. Our kids are starting to crave and miss seeing each other, and as the teachers are missing seeing their kids as well. So the teachers and students that have been using it have really liked it for the discussion and interaction component. We're using Microsoft Teams for our virtual conferencing with our students. And for the most part, our teachers are having their kids leave their cameras off just for privacy concerns. And I think they miss seeing each other and miss some of the interaction. We have had it required because we are doing grades. We're a private school, we can do grades. So it's a little bit different than when it's just optional. If it's optional, they might roll their eyes and be like, "Ugh, I just can't, I don't want to." But if they have to do it, then they do it and realize it's not that bad. So I don't really have a better answer for you, unfortunately. Part of it does fall on the teachers and making it, you know, as part of their assignment, making it exciting, making it something they want to do. And I love Lindsay's idea to aligning it to TikTok challenges. That is a great way to do it. I know our dean of students has been doing e-deaning is what he calls it. And he's been doing challenges via Twitter with short videos and things like that. And this could be a good way to do it. Because something that I did not show on here is you can, if you want this to be public, I'm going to go into the settings for this topic, and there's something in here you can turn on called video moderation, which means people can submit videos all they want, but you have to go in and physically click that video on so that it shows. So you do have some control. You can put it out there for the public on your school's Twitter, and then only publish the videos that you like, that you've approved. And it might, some things don't work for everybody is my other part. So depending on what students you have, what your community culture is like, Barb, it just might not fit for you guys, and that's okay. It might not fit now, but it might fit for something, you know, in September or next, you know, May. We're going to try and do like a back to school with our teachers where they introduce themselves via video for our curriculum night, our back to school night. And we're just looking for ways to kind of bring it into the community and use it to promote student voice and teacher voice as well. I wish I had a better answer for you, but sometimes no matter how fun you try to make something, if the kids don't want to do it, it just doesn't work. Lindsay's got some great ideas there. I really like the TikTok challenges. Maybe go on to TikTok if you can figure it out. I personally haven't ventured into the TikTok arena. Grab some of those challenges and see if you can replicate any of them. Because kids, if they already have the video, if they've already done whatever that TikTok challenge is, if they can get that video, they can upload it into Flipgrid and they don't need to re-record it. One other thing I want to say before we're all done with this is device agnostic. So kids can do it on any device that they have. So there's an iPhone and an Android app that they can put onto their phone. They can use it on any sort of tablet. They can use it on any type of computer with a webcam. Anywhere where they can access the site, they can record. So if you didn't send devices home with your students for this break, you can still assign this because there's a good chance they have access to a way to record in some way. Do you have any other questions or things like that? I'm going to drop my playlist back in the chat window here. And I'm also going to put my Twitter in case you want to reach out to me there. And anything else? All right.
This has been really great, Colleen and Adam. I know that I've learned a lot, and I've used Flipgrid before, but they're constantly updating and really making things easier for the teacher. So it's just nice to have like this refresher and see, oh, that's how I can use it. And just, you know, bounce ideas off of each other. I think sometimes we get stuck in these silos where we're like, how can I use this in a new way? So it's just helpful to have people to talk to and get some feedback from as well.
Yeah. And there's so many ways you can use it because the camera, I mean, camera goes both ways. You can be recording your face, you know, Snapchat style. You can be recording, like you can set your computer up and use the other end. So you can be demonstrating something. You can take that computer outside and go show something that you're doing. You can use the screencasting to show what you're doing on the screen. You can even just cover the screen and record your voice for the kids or teachers that are shy. There's just it's so flexible. That's part of why I really love it. Any way that you want to collect video from your kids, this is the way to do it. It's just so great, so flexible, so much privacy built into it. It's made by teachers for teachers, and you can really tell.
The other thing that I want to take note of is they had this system down before remote learning. So they were free, they were teacher focused and centered. And I think it's important that educators are mindful of these companies that were here for us before, you know, it was cool, before it was trendy. And, you know, like Flipgrid really had the right idea. this whole time. It wasn't just out of necessity. So
Yeah.
I know personally, I'm keeping note of the people that, you know, are not marketing to me, but have been there supportive this whole time. So that's definitely Flipgrid, in my opinion.
And if you're a teacher trainer, like if your job is like mine, where you are responsible for training people on technology, if you reach out to them, I'm not sure how it is right now because of all of the training that's happening, but they've got a PD pack where they will send you stuff to give away at your sessions. I'm wearing, and you probably can't see it, I'm wearing my Flipgrid shirt that I got, and it is like, Microsoft shirts, I'm telling you, are the softest shirts I have ever owned. I love them. But you also get like a stack of stickers. You get, hey, nice shirt. You get just like a whole stack of freebies. They've got a ton of stuff that's available online for free to help you with your training of your teachers. And they've been free for about 2 years. Before that, they had a very robust free account and then a paid account so they could keep their doors open because it was made by teachers who were still working. And then Microsoft bought them out and opened it up for everybody 2 summers ago. And it's just skyrocketed since then. And if you're an immersive reader fan, that's available in here as well. It's built-in accessibility features. There's just literally like nothing you can't do with it.
Totally agree.
You can tell? I love it.
Yeah, I agree with the shirt too. I requested some because I was doing a training, and it's just teachers love free stuff like that. And so if you could be like, hey, try this tool out, show me that you've done it, I'll send you a shirt. You know, what's better than that?
Yeah, that's if you go on their homepage, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, there should be a link there where you can like request resources or something like that.
Well, thank you so much, Colleen and Adam, for answering our questions and then some, and providing so many amazing resources. I dropped the link to our PDH in the chat, as well as a couple other links. We do have events like this going every week, whether it's Microsoft, Google, Apple focused, or just meeting with a coach virtually. And then all of our resources that have been shared with us get housed on our page of our website that's called Home Learning. We're also asking if you do have a minute of time to fill out our feedback form. We just want to make sure we're supporting people in ways that make sense to them. So if you want to see more or less of something, we are kind of directing our learning based on feedback from users and members like you. So I dropped all of that in the chat. The most important one is your PDH, though it's at the very top. So thank you again, everybody, for hanging out with us for this hour, and big thanks to Colleen and Adam. Honestly, I couldn't do this without the two of you, so thank you so, so much.
We have loved doing this. We love being the go-to Microsoft people. But any other Microsoft questions you guys have, feel free to email us. Our information's on the side. More than happy to help and share the Microsoft love.
All right, have a great day, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.